You guys saw Stephen Key here. Was anybody here when Stephen came and spoke? You guys know who Stephen is, One Simple Idea. Stephen, he did Teddy Ruxpin and laser tag, and he's built a whole business on helping people and explaining how to license products. I've spent 30 years doing this. I'll just tell you guys, she recently passed away, but my mother was Esther Williams, the swimming movie star, and so I grew up in Hollywood in the entertainment business. And when I was growing up, nobody knew that movies were intellectual property. But I'll tell you, Kirk Kerkorian did when he bought the MGM library and then sold it to Turner for hundreds of millions of dollars, which then became Turner Classic Movies. The whole thing about licensing is, all it is when you grant someone else the rights to use something that you own, some intellectual property that you have. And so that's what I've been doing for 30 years. I've been doing it in every arena you can imagine. As an attorney, I was an intellectual property attorney, had my own practice for 25 years that I founded here, and then represented people like Tony Robbins, and represented this young girl who was the singing voice of Nala in The Lion King. Had a great gospel voice and grew up in gospel, and got that deal. So I've done books, I've done music, I've done radio, Jeff and Jer and Dave Shelley and Chainsaw, and seminars for Tony and a lot of other people. A lot of infomercials. I fell into it with Tony and with Tammy Lee Webb in the whole Buns of Steel series at the beginning of the infomercial industry in 1984. And I've continued to do that through a company called Infomercial Development. I was partners with Guthrie Ranker, raised $8 million and produced 16 infomercials, one of which is still on the air. It's the Medicus Golf product. So, and Leslie, what Leslie just did is a great outline of what you're looking at when you're looking to license a product. But the key is to, as she said, to do your research. You've got to know your market, you've got to know your product, you've got to know where it fits. And you can't come to someone like Leslie or me and say, hey, I want you to license my product to somebody and make me $1 million. I get 300 to 400 people a year that contact me through my infomercialdevelopment.com website, which I've had up since 1998 when I was in my partnership with Guthrie Ranker. And they all want the quick and easy way out. They all say, I have this great idea, it's worth $1 million. And I say, okay, well, what have you done? You know, have you filed a patent? Have you filed a trademark? Do you have a domain name? What kind of research have you done? Have you done a comparative market analysis? And the answers are so often no, but I have this great idea and I want somebody to give me $1 million for it. So, you know, that's just delusional. And the great thing about this organization and you know, what Adrian does here every month is the whole point is to give you an understanding of what it takes to bring your product into the marketplace, what it takes to develop your invention, what it takes to get it ready so that you can come to someone like Leslie or me, or there are thousands of people out there that can help you license a product. But if you haven't done your homework, if you don't know where your product fits within the marketplace, if you don't know what features are going to be attractive to a potential licensee, then you're kidding yourself. And you're really wasting your time, and you're going to be wasting money when you go hire Leslie or hire me or hire anybody else to help you put together a license agreement. So it's really important, as she said, that you understand all of those different elements of how your product is going to fit within that marketplace. And for me, in my world of all marketing in each of these different arenas, it's the unique selling proposition. How many have heard of USP? You guys heard that term? Okay, great. So unique selling proposition is major in my world of marketing all these different products and these different deals for licensing. Because if you don't have something that it distinguishes you from everyone else that's out there, it's very hard to get you a royalty advance. It's very hard to, people always think, oh, well, I've got this incredible idea, so I'm going to get $100,000. And sure, I was able to get Tony Robbins $5 million for a book deal. I was able to get Jorge Cruz a $2.4 million advance from HarperCollins for a 4-book deal for the 3-Hour Diet. Got my mom $1 million plus a bunch of great perks for her autobiography. She was the biggest celebrity of any book I ever did, and it was one of my first ones. So, you know, she got rooms at the Ritz and the Four Seasons and first class on the Concorde, and there are very few people that you can negotiate those kinds of deals for. But you know, if you don't have something that distinguishes you from everyone else out there, then it's very difficult to get the kind of deal that in your minds you think your product is worth getting. And so it's important that you do all the things that Leslie talked about. You think about them, you understand how they fit, you do a lot of research on your product. We've got our company, Inventions in Income. I just want to point out Don and Annie have done an incredible job with Don's got a product called TheraPoint. It helps relieve tennis elbow and the a lot of repetitive stress injuries. And he's done an incredible amount of research. And in fact, they're doing a clinical study to have some hard data that's not just anecdotal about what this product can do. So he's getting himself, and we're helping him get to a point where he's going to be ready to go out into a very populated world, and we're going to find him the right deal because he's doing the right stuff and he's not rushing. We're not letting him rush the deal. We're holding him back and saying, no, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And so it's just key that you have a realistic perspective about your product. You understand what the USP is. You understand all the things that Leslie said about getting yourself ready for a licensing deal. And then you approach it from a realistic and a very aggressive point of view. I also want to point out Randy, who stood up earlier with his cell phone hat attachment. He is the most aggressive researcher that I've ever worked with. I mean, he's relentless. When we were looking at that product, every day he was sending us like, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? And that's exactly what you have to do. You have to be that aggressive because I'll just tell you right now, you cannot pay Leslie or me or anyone else, Stephen Key, anyone else on the planet, enough money to be as interested in your product as you are. It just won't happen. So if you don't make it happen, we can't do it for you. So you're gonna have to be the driving force behind your product, and then what we're gonna do is make course corrections. We're gonna help you with things that 30 years of experience have taught us to watch out for, and we know that they're ticking time bombs in a deal, and we're gonna keep you away from that. But if you're not ready for the deal to happen, we can't make it happen, right, Leslie?
Absolutely.
Come on up, Leslie.
Or would you like to?
Well, wherever, sure. So you guys, you truly do have a wealth of experience here between Leslie and me. So if you ever had a question that you wanted to ask to people about how to license a product or what the issues are that you will face in licensing it, you should ask it now. Take it away. Who's got a question?
There's one starter right there.
In the back?
I'm sorry, I got him first.
Oh, you got him?
If you don't need the upfront fee, should you just blow them off and just go for the straight royalty amount?
You is the licensee.
As a licensor, he's saying
Yeah,
if you don't need to ask for.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't ask for anything that is going to eventually, bite you in another way.
Yeah.
The problem is people get so aggressive and they want that first bite of the buck, and they think, oh, let me, if I could just have $10,000 or $100,000, $1 million. But then what? What are you trading off?
Yeah, it's going to cost you somewhere, but it's important, I think, for you to let them know that you're at a point in the development of your product and in the sophistication of your understanding of the marketplace that you're not going to demand that, but you certainly expect that they're going to recognize the value you bring to the project in not needing that. That's extra money that can be allocated for marketing or product development or something else that's going to be really essential.
Yeah, or like some people do things where the upfront fees will come off the royalty first party payment, so you can kind of celebrate getting a royalty
They always come off your payment.
It's gonna come out one way or the other, yeah, it's not.
They're never
it's
gonna
not-
give
Maybe
you
you
the
could just
money.
take it off the table, just,
It's always going to be in advance.
just
That-
say, just try to go for the biggest percentage
Yeah,
royalty amount.
it's not a bonus on top of your royalty.
No, right. It's not free money,
Yeah, it's
ever,
not free.
ever, ever. It's always in advance. Yeah, in the back?
Who initiates contact with the company that we're going to do the licensing deal with?
You,
Make the phone call, do I make the phone call?
You
Who
do.
does that?
You
do.
Well, when you're ready, when you're ready, well, first of all, you should develop a comprehensive list of potential licensees.
Right, so
And-
you have your list and you call the ABC company, hi, I'm looking for your
Yeah.
licensing department?
Yes.
Yeah.
Marketing department, licensing department, sales, VP of sales. Most companies that are in a product sales environment will have a designated person or department that will do that. So if you're persistent, you'll get to them, right?
you know, and the important thing is there is, you know, by the time you get us involved, you should already have that relationship somewhat established and developed to then initiate having the licensing, the in-depth licensing conversation. Cold calling on your behalf.
It's too expensive.
And then do you oversee the information I've gathered from that company, then you just oversee the information they provided, you say, this is what we recommend?
We do that. Randy will tell you that we organized his prospects into different tiers. That this would be like a tier 1 prospect, a tier 2 prospect, and a tier 3 prospect. So you can organize them that way, and you can approach them either from tier 3 first and kind of cut your teeth and get your feet under you as to, you know, or you can approach tier 1 first and, you know, hope that you land a deal with one of the bigger companies or one of the more suitable companies for your product.
And before landing a deal, though, you have to come in at some point and assist with what Leslie's just.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right, and so what you do is you contact one of us and you say, I've gone through my prospect list, I've been contacting these various people, I have 3 companies now that have expressed an interest in a negotiation. They are asking me to submit the following things. They want a prototype, they want whatever, and they want to start negotiating a term sheet. As Leslie said, that's your next step, is to start talking about, okay, what does this deal look like?
Yeah, once, I've worked with Leslie in the past, we've had successful contracts, and this is how it started. I made the original contact, we got to the point where there was a framework of the discussion, ready then to then bring in the expertise to get it done right. But just having somebody coach you before you start this whole venture is just so important, because you can just go at it at the wrong angle just to begin with. This is...
And we make ourselves available by phone, by email, whatever, for ongoing conversations, so that you feel confident. That's essential, that you feel confident in your approach to these companies. You're not coming in like, I'm not sure if you're going to want my
Yeah, they're
product.
going to sniff that out,
Yeah.
take advantage of you like crazy.
Okay.
Gentleman right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a product, but I also have tooling, and I want to know if it's possible to actually get the tooling license versus the product. Because I mean, we have the product, and we have more than one product line, but my partner is concerned is that maybe we should get the tooling license.
Do you own the tooling?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you own the tooling, then it's part of your IP.
Okay.
So
You could sell
own-
the tooling to somebody else, but
Wait a minute.
Because I mean, and the dilemma that we have is that I kind of want to go with the licensing, but he doesn't, and so I'm learning that to me, like, the licensing is going to be the best advantage or the best way to go. But his concern is that, you know, maybe we need to protect the tool, and so I'm thinking, okay, maybe we get the tool license and not license the product.
But wait a minute. Owning the tool is not the same thing as owning the IP.
right.
So I'm not sure what he says here.
Yeah,
If it's a
I'm not-
method of manufacturing, that's intellectual property.
Well, but the
Okay.
physical dies, or the actual, what the parts that make his product, he can own.
He can own the material, but I'm not sure if he said you actually own the IP for the material.
Right, we have the tooling that makes the product. So I'm-
You own the hardware, but you don't own the IP.
No, he's saying he does own the
No, we
IP.
own both.
So you had a
Okay,
work for hire agreement with the company that built your tools,
I'm
right?
sorry to hear.
A work for hire agreement where that said that all IP was transferred to you when you paid him money.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Oh, well, that's a term of art. It means that when you hire someone, that they are, everything that they create belongs to you, is your intellectual property, not theirs.
Right.
Because if you don't have that agreement in place, it doesn't necessarily mean that you own
So
your
the tool and die maker, if you had the right agreement with them, that's your tool, that's yours. It gets sticky if you don't.
But if you license the tooling, you're competing with yourself, right?
True.
Now, what do you
Because-
mean license the tooling?
Well, he's suggesting that he could offer his process for manufacture of a particular product that it has come from his creation of this tooling, and generate revenue off of that, as opposed to using that to make the product and then selling the product.
What would be the advantage of the company to license your tooling?
It might speed up the process of manufacture to some degree if you know, they have to start from scratch to develop
Yeah,
that tooling, to develop
would you
that
offer
die.
them to say, I'll let you use my tooling if you give me 8% royalty instead?
Well, if you did a package deal, sure, you're granting the rights to make the product and you're providing the
Right.
tooling. right?
So remember, one of the key things I spoke about when it comes to intellectual property rights, all intellectual property rights, each of them individually have divisible rights.
Right.
When you license your intellectual property, particularly patents, you're licensing the right to make, have made, use, offer for sale, sell, lease, manufacture,
Prevent
distribute,
others
promote.
from making.
Right, prevent others. So there are a lot of divisible rights that go with that. You either give them all or you give pieces and parts, part of the licensing deal.
And the key is to know what all those rights are. Alex, you have a question?
Is there a non-disclosure agreement to be signed prior to you talking to a future license?
Well, if you listen to Stephen Key, he says it's not necessary. What I'll tell you, and what Randy will tell you,
What I will tell you.
is that most companies that are engaged in product development will refuse to sign them. And the reason they'll refuse to sign them, there are a couple of reasons. One is their legal department's told them that it's just a legal nightmare because it's an opportunity. It's not only an opportunity, it's encouraging someone to sue you. The reason they'll tell you, they won't tell you that reason. The other reason they'll tell you is that they have so many products in development at all times that if they sign non-disclosure agreements, it would prevent them from their own internal product development. The reality is that the best way to protect your invention is to patent it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically where the industry is.
That's very much the case. I've been doing product development 30 years. I still have companies that send me these nondescript non-disclosures expecting me to sign it. And I have to call them back going, no, you have to fill in the exact name of this product or the category it's in or something very descriptive. I'm not signing it. I just can't get caught in that. Because the next person that comes in the door, I work on their product and this company comes back saying, oh, you signed a non-disclosure with us. That's one of the things we talked about.
But I'll tell you, in my infomercial business, I sign non-disclosures every day because no one would come and let me help them develop their product for an infomercial, and I'm never going to steal an idea because I'd be out of business. So, yeah.
So, we're in production with this product. It's a filtered water bottle. I designed it, have the patent on a hard shell with squeezable portion. It's a combination of that. I have a design patent as well. Been in production for a while, actually licensed the product to Remington Arms Company.
Great.
Did all that. So now, we're in production. We got to a point where our inventory levels are too high. We're actually made here in Carlsbad. Inventory levels got pretty high. This co-owner that just sold Life Proof came to us, potentially wants to take over the whole company and basically have us license the whole brand to them. So that's kind of a unique situation because we were potentially going to license it out, and then this one-stop shop comes to us and asks us to potentially take on the brand. It's a little risky and those kind of things. So to incentivize them, I was wondering, as far as the minimums, could you create minimums separate for the bottle and the filter? Because ideally you want to incentivize them to make more filters.
Absolutely. That's what Leslie's talking about.
That's what I was talking about when I was
Right.
talking about the concept, right? The razor blade, the component,
Right.
the subcomponent, the add-on, the
Yeah.
accessory. Absolutely,
We have lots of
because,
accessories and stuff too, so it's separating those minimums.
absolutely.
So,
Well,
and not just a end revenue minimum that you have to hit by, each quarter, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. It's separate within those, and then the next question would be, what happens with, you know, in those separate columns of product, you know, filters, accessories, whatever, you know, if they don't hit those minimums, you know, how do you chop up those penalties or whatever it is?
What's the
you know?
recourse?
Because there's no, you know, because they may have sold, you know, double the amount of revenue in bottles, but the filters are less than what the minimum's gonna be.
Right.
If that makes sense.
So you need to come up with a model that makes sense. You know, you have to have done some research to basically say that for every one bottle I sell, over its lifetime, I should probably have, the consumer should have probably
And it's
consumed,
every 3 months.
you know,
people-
X number of filters. So it's easy to kind of create a direct correlation there. The key thing for you to also consider is how bundling may affect your royalty stream, because, you know, whether they sell
And the
this, you
margins
know.
are obviously a lot different too.
Right, but when you sell that product, you have a couple of, you have 3 opportunities, right? To sell the bottle by itself, with or without 1, 2, or 3 filters as a bundle. Then you have the ongoing revenue stream, which is the filter. That's where the
Right.
razor blade model comes
We
from,
have
right?
your supply, we have the singles, and we have the one that comes
Right.
with it.
Yep,
But
and all those things may,
That's
or,
like the
you know,
upgraded.
But also in those kinds of deals, you're gonna, it sounds to me like the bottle is driving the whole deal, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Without the-
Okay, well, so then what you can do is you can set sales milestones for the bottle, and you can give them the opportunity to cure failure to sell quantities, minimum quantities of the other items by paying you a higher royalty or,
And it can go both ways, right?
exactly, and you can give them the chance to buy their way to compliance on the sale of the accessory pieces, so you don't lose the deal on the bottle,
Right.
and you can maintain that. And it's just going to be, like Leslie says, you know, your model may prove wrong. It may be that you think that it's going to be every 3 months that somebody needs a filter, but they're only buying them every 6 months, and so, you know, when you get to reality after a year or 2 of actual sales, you may want to go back and adjust the expectations and the milestone
We have all
minimums.
the data
Yeah.
being sold for like 2.5 years.
Okay, that's
3 years.
perfect.
So,
Well, then-
but-
then-
and even bringing multiple products and accessories and sort of having multiple ways for them to then like, how'd you call it?
Cure a default.
Cure default,
Yeah.
yeah. So because of that and that ability for them to cure default, is there potential to increase the royalty amount because they're more hedging in their.
What they'll do is pay you money that you haven't earned, basically. So for instance, if you had a royalty of $1 per filter, and they were supposed to sell 10,000 filters every 3 months, and they only sold 6,000 filters, they could pay you that 4,000 to make up for the lost revenue, and that would cure the default and maintain the license agreement in place for the bottle. So that's exactly what we do, is we sit down with you and we strategize, okay, what's driving this deal? What are the add-ons? How do we accommodate the rights and the interests of both sides of the deal?
It's all a negotiation.
And
Yeah.
the tricky part is now, we're an ongoing brand, it's, you know, we're selling product. So, you know, if they just, you know, it's risky for us because we just give them the ability to do it, and, you know, year 1, they don't hit their minimums, and the contract cancels or whatever, then we're like, okay, we lost.
Well, you know,
a
and
lot of risk.
you can always private label. So you can always give them the rights to private label it, and you keep your own brand.
Well, they want the whole,
They want the brand.
They want it all, and they want worldwide exclusive, and they want to take over the logo, the brand.
Well, you know, like Leslie said, you're getting married, so you better know who you're marrying.
One of my concerns is more this. So, do you have different royalty rate? Like, how complex does it get when you say, okay, here's the water bottle, right? Here's the filter. We understand that and all the accessories here. But what if they want to then go license a pitcher and strap our Gobi name onto that pitcher?
That's a sublicense.
that's,
Right, and now is there a different royalty rate for that because it's
Yes.
coming underneath our brand?
Absolutely.
Well,
They want to take our FlexFlow technology and sublicense that out and say to another company, here, you can use the flexible technology.
No, that's sub-licensing.
That's sub-licensing.
That's sub-licensing.
So now you're in bed
Yeah.
with more
They
than
want
what
to
you
do that,
partner
so.
with.
Well, yeah, of course they do, but they're not going to.
Well, but what you can tell them, by the way, I'll just tell you,
It's a great world example.
and now it's a great real world example, and now you're getting into something called a reverse royalty. So what happens is if they come to you and say, we believe that we can sub-license this, you say, no, you're not going to sub-license it. We'll go license it to these people, and we'll pay you a reverse royalty for putting that deal together or introducing us to that potential user. So there's a way, so now you're compensating them, but you have a direct contractual relationship with that company. It's not a sub-license through this other company.
Right, okay.
The value of expertise. When you go through this, the hindsight that's, the 2020 hindsight's too late. That's why you gotta get this foresight by the
But
experts.
you've got a
that can
great
premonice-
situation. I mean, everybody in this room would like to have your
Yeah.
problem.
Buy me, no. All right.
Okay, next. Right here. Oh, sorry, I got this right here.
Yeah, so do you have the patent already? I've had a few different answers on this. Do you need a prototype to go out and have these meetings?
It depends.
Is it something that somebody has to hold and to understand it, or can you just visualize it with good graphics?
Great answer.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
graphics
I
and
try to tell
videos.
people to save a lot of money, don't get the prototype, if just an animation or a graphic will convey the whole concept, great. But if it's a touchy-feely thing, and there's nuances to how it works, spend the money on a prototype.
Don's product, you never, how could you explain your product to somebody? You had to have a prototype.
It had to work.
You had to have a working prototype that you can wrap around their arm and they can feel the pressure point.
And it's part of your whole process, because you're probably going to take videos of that working model, and you're going to embed those videos in your presentation and use it as comparison next to other competitive models. So it's always part of the initial steps, usually, to build a working model, because you're going to use it as other things.
So it's exactly what Adrian said. It depends on whether or not you can adequately explain the purpose and function of your product without having a prototype. If you can't, you have to have one.
Here.
Back to the tooling idea. In setting up the licensing, is there an incentive to having the tooling as you go into that for products like these? I can make by myself with not the injection molding.
Well, let me ask the question. How much did your tooling cost?
$6,000.
$6,000?
6,000.
Yeah, that's about what this is.
6-0
But I have,
or just 6?
6K.
It maybe or maybe not, because if they already have an established manufacturing line, how to fit that in their line may not be suitable or even reasonable. If it can only produce 1, 2, 3 at a time, and they're talking about producing tens, thousands, hundreds, probably not.
so better off just
So-
holding
Well,
off
and your
on it.
tool may not fit their press.
Right.
So,
Right.
That's the problem.
But it does show the viability of the market if you can test market it yourself and prove the concept.
Well, and it certainly allows you to be in production immediately.
Right.
So you don't have to go out and create tooling. You can start manufacturing product right away.
So if you're representing that you're the manufacturer, yes, it's an asset to have that tooling right
Right.
behind you.
Yeah.
But if you're going after the license agreement, then that's going to be their expense.
They do have desktop injection molders too.
Oh,
You
yeah.
guys have seen those where you can, it's probably about the same size if you use it. It's literally like shows temperatures and everything, and you can hand press it.
I think a good story is the guy that did the pump on the shoes.
oh,
He
yeah.
licensed that to Nike, and he
Yeah.
molded them. And he was selling those, I think, for like 80 cents or $1. Too nice.
Yeah.
Nickel worth of
And,
plastic.
Nike knew it was like nothing to make up. That's the deal he got.
Right.
So I think with your situation is you should say, we'll license it and we'll supply parts.
Yeah.
And your part cost is this.
Yeah.
I don't know which part it is and I don't know what it is, but if you can do both, then
Now-
it's interesting.
But you got to make sure you don't overreach,
Yeah, I mean,
because
he was representing
because if
products.
you're not qualified to do something that you make part of the deal and you screw it up,
Yeah.
you're in default, and now you jeopardize the whole deal.
Yeah, I mean, he was an expert at molding.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's the
So
difference.
he knew what he was doing, but
Yeah.
if you're confident about that, then that's what you can get. That's why the parts and license.
Yeah, I have, my example would be this spice that I'm doing, and I wanna maybe go to just companies that sell only woodworking tools and license it to them, and then, sell it on my own.
Absolutely.
So would it make sense to just build one that looks like the stuff in the Rockler catalog and take it to them and say, hey, this looks just like everything else you got, what do you think?
What's it gonna cost you to build it?
The same as it cost me to build any of the rest of them.
So no big deal.
Yeah,
I
then
got
it
machines out and
Yeah.
definitely couldn't hurt. And, you know, an example I've given in previous, with regard to like tooling and tools and, things like that, when you talk about, you know, alternative uses, alternative markets, you know, one of the 100 other things that I do when I'm not sleeping, is I
You
design. Yeah, occasionally. Usually after some assistance, liquid or otherwise. I design jewelry. And if I go to my jewelry suppliers to buy certain tools, they're 3, 5, 10 times the cost than if I go to Harbor Freight or go down the street to Home Depot and get the same thing
Sure.
for $2
Sure.
and hammer away or do whatever I need to
Because it's
do.
jewelry.
Because certain things are designed for certain markets and needs.
It's a luxury
If they
product.
know exactly.
But by the same token, if you build something that looks like everything else in their catalog, you could get the premium price, right? Because then it isn't just the plier that you bought at Harbor Freight, it's the fancy one that looks like people that
It goes
make
back
the
to my
jewelry pliers.
Yeah, it goes back to my comment about fit, right? If you make it a better fit for their category, which makes it easier to sell,
Right.
Yeah.
easier to market, less effort,
So it's worth it.
absolutely it's worth that extra effort. Yes,
In your experience, what's the most efficient way to find potential licensees?
To find them?
the most efficient way, start here. This is the easiest starting ground imaginable.
Cold calling? Or,
Pardon?
Like, I mean,
Well,
No, what
you
she's
start
saying is-
here with getting information.
Yes, product research.
I-
Go to the stores where your product is.
no, but you find the product, you have this phone number, you're suggesting call that phone number
Yes.
is the most
Yeah.
efficient
Yes.
way?
Yeah.
Well, and then do
And the
research.
internet, the internet,
Research.
of course.
You can type in Gillette
No,
license.
no, I said that wrong. Not find, contact. So that
Oh.
they actually,
But what you
Like-
want to also do is
Hello?
make sure that they have
Phone call.
one. So one, you want to make sure that they're interested. So some product manufacturers will have on their website opportunities for you to make submissions, right? They'll have an open house, an open call, an invitation process, something like that, right? In other cases, you can do research on the web and find out, you know, Gillette licensing deal, and you can get some basic information there about whether or not they even do any deals.
Well, lots of
There may be
websites,
some stories
and
there.
lots of websites will have a link to a submission form that says new product inquiries or new product submissions.
Stephen Key's previous book, on the back of it, he has 1,200 companies categorized 70 ways. Each one of them has an open door policy to accept product
Yeah.
Yeah.
submissions.
There you
And
go.
like I
It's a
said,
$500 billion business to license your idea. All these companies, they don't have enough bandwidth to create new products. You do it for them.
Yeah.
So it's very legit way to.
the website that I referenced earlier, epmcom.com, that is what they do. They pull all of this research together. They tell you who's licensing to whom, where, how, even in some cases how much, and what classifications those licensing deals fall in. So it's a good point of reference. Again, it's a little bit expensive. It's a faster route. You can get the actual detailed information and direct contact, because then that tells you they are interested in licensing deals.
I found one of the earliest ways, if you've been in my room, we talk about this. Very first thing is the IP search. And if you've listened to me, I tell you one of the very first things you should pay attention to when you look at these patents that have been issued in the category that you're in, there'll be the name of the inventor, and right underneath it is who is that patent assigned to.
Yeah.
And that's the company that got the license agreement. So as your very first step of homework, which is always the IP search, because you don't want to reinvent somebody else's wheel, you're finding out right then and there who the players are, and those could be your competitors or your strategic partners to approach for a license agreement. So there's another source, is right up front when you're doing your patent search, pay attention to that assignee. They're in that market, they've already made deals.
I think another good thing is go to, like, past trade shows, and they'll have the attendee list, and it's categories by the category.
Yeah, that too.
And that will have a major player.
Yeah,
So
there's
let's say
there's
you want to look up locks, you go to like a Harvard show, it'll list, you know, all
Absolutely.
the companies
Right.
there, and a lot of them are linked, so you actually just click on them, you go right to the website.
Then
Trade
you get a
shows-
customer
trade
service
shows-
number, not a corporate directory, you know?
Well, but they'll guide you.
Yeah.
By the way, when somebody answers the call, don't say, hey, I'm an inventor. Stop right there. No,
Right.
no. I'm a businessman or I'm an entrepreneur with a product that you might find interesting for your product line. Who in the company do I talk to talk about
Because they don't know if you're a distributor or
Yeah.
if you're some other
Don't
mechanism.
introduce yourself as an inventor. That
Trade shows can be great, and they can be a horrible waste of time in some instances. Someone in this room could probably very well speak to a recent experience they had. I'm not gonna name names or point fingers, but
been there.
but they you know, if you go in prepared, if you go in with probably low expectations but a lot of research, you can possibly get appointments made to meet with these people while you're there, while they're there. But again, you're competing with the hundreds, if not thousands, of other people that are also trying to get their attention too. So you have to have that gotcha, that wow factor, that thing that's going to want to make
Unique
them
selling.
take, the unique selling proposition that's going to make them want to take that 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes of their 8-hour day on a 2-day conference to meet with you.
Know your 8-second elevator speech, because that's where you can come out and tell them that unique proposition, find out if they're interested, move on or move forward. Question?
Is the licensing department usually part of the legal department as
Yes.
opposed to the
Yes.
marketing department?
The marketing will try to control and own it, but
Right.
they get,
But they always have to give it to legal.
Yeah. Typically, you would want to make contact with the marketing department first.
Yes.
To determine whether there's a good fit.
yes.
Yes.
Then they'll connect you.
Yes.
They'll be your champion. They'll introduce you once they've figured out this.
Calling saying, "I'd like to talk to your licensing
Right.
department," right? You don't want to do
It's
that.
the sales, it's the marketing.
It's marketing,
VP
right, is
or-
really where you want to be.
Yeah.
Lisa?
I was just gonna say regarding trade shows, my experience was make your appointment with them before the show.
Yeah.
Get one of their slots, because you will not get their eyes or their brain or their mind share at the show, and then you're really out of luck.
A question. If you deal with the government agency, the Navy, the armies, who do you deal with? Acquisition, or they don't have marketing, right? So who do you deal with?
Like Department of Naval Research or somebody like that, yeah.
Let's say you've got a
typically, no,
you've
there
got a product.
typically is a project manager or a product development manager, somebody who's, because I've done that a bunch of times, and you end up getting someone who is in a division that's interested in that particular technology or product. Have you ever done that, Adrian? Have you?
Oh, yeah, you know DARPA and how to
Yeah,
get
'cause-
HBIR.
So you go through the DARPA process.
Sure, there's always an ombudsman.
Yeah, there's someone who is
With
designated for a particular category of products or technology. that's
NASA
responsible
also has a.
for the intake, yeah.
You're gonna have a lot more hurdles, of course, dealing with the government and all of their requirements, and federal rules and regulations, but it's not impossible. You're not gonna get rich off them likely, but.
If you have patents, but you also have trade secrets, and you don't want to disclose the trade secrets during the negotiating, can you use white papers or third-party affidavits or something to?
Sure.
And then, okay.
By the way, let's just describe that for a second. Trade secrets are something that you develop within your company or your business that is known to you, gives you an advantage over your competitors, and if your competitors had that information, you would lose that advantage. The easiest description of a trade secret within every business is your customer list and your pricing policies, and how you interact with your customers in orders and deliveries and all of that. So what he's saying is, if you're going into a licensing negotiation, you don't want to reveal your, the best trade secret in the world is the Coca-Cola formula. That's never been patented, it's never been copyrighted, it's always just been a formula that they've maintained as a trade secret, and they've gone to extraordinary lengths, as you all know, to protect it and deny it whenever anybody reverse engineers it. Which has been done dozens of times. But so for trade secrets, you can identify and say that I have this category of information about my business that represents a trade secret, and I'll only reveal this much of it, so as not to reveal the whole thing.
Another thing to consider, and kind of going back to the whether to sign an NDA or whether they will or whether they won't, is when you go into these things, it's a piecemeal. Right? So just think about it as an engagement process or getting to know you. If you're going on a first date and revealing anything and everything there is to know about you, you're putting yourself in a really, really bad position. Don't go in, as I always say, and open the proverbial kimono and say, and look what I got, and show them everything, right? Kind of the first step is if you've done the right thing, which is get your IP protection. You've got a trademark, you've taken at least the precautionary measures or the initial measures to start your trademark protections, your copyright protections, your patent protections, whether that's a provisional or non-provisional patent. Give them what they might readily find out about you anyway. That way you're not giving up so much, but then add to that compelling, unique selling proposition that's going to keep them intrigued. Because maybe they could go, maybe you're in that patent prosecution phase where they can go find out what it is you're up to and where you are and what is going on with that. Maybe they can go and do the trademark search themselves and see what you've got. And then go on the web and on the USPTO site and look at what copyrights you have. Great. Let them go take all that time and effort to do it. You're essentially giving them that information without them having to do that research, but you're not oversharing. So think about it
And
that
also,
way too.
it's the dating analogy is a really good one because, you know, on a first date, you don't want to just vomit all over the person and tell them everything about yourself and, you know, not even give them a minute to get a word in edgewise. You want to, it's a give and take. And you will be surprised that in many cases, these VPs of marketing or someone who's responsible for intake of new product ideas, they're going to ask you questions that you never even thought someone would ask you. They're going to be interested in things that aren't on your mind, is not something that you're going to have as part of your elevator pitch, but it's really important to their whole process of evaluating you and evaluating how realistic you are. They're going to ask you, what's your background? You know, what kind of work experience do you have? Because that's one of the first things I do in infomercial development is I want to know how delusional is this person. You know, and they're going to, like Adrian says, if you announce yourself as an inventor, they're going to immediately brand you as delusional. And so you know, don't be delusional or don't be too eager in the very first contact. Yeah, let them find out how delusional you are.
And to speak to that, if you are in a position where you're in front of whether it's sales or marketing or a licensing person at that other company, and they ask you something that you don't know,
don't make it up.
Don't make it up. No, this is not the opportunity and time for BS. Okay, it will kill your deal or severely impact it, and certainly create a level of potential distrust along the way. Right. So if you don't know, you know, take that pause, get back to them at some point when you do know, or go figure out who can help you find that out, and maybe they can help you find some of that out too. But it's not the opportunity for BS.
Remember that they've done this. They're doing this every day. Yeah. So you can even say to them, "Hey, I'd be interested in seeing what your typical license agreement looks like." You know, they can push a button and print it out. So, you know, you should be a sponge absorbing information rather than spitting it out, because you need to know what they're looking for and who this person is, what level of authority they've got, a lot of things that you can find out just by having a nice conversation with them.
Can I ask a real quick question? What percentage of people, individuals, that go into a license agreement use somebody like you guys?
The successful ones.
You know, that's what we don't know because we're not in touch with the entire universe of people that are doing this.
1% or 99% or?
Well, I'll just tell you that I get between 300 and 400 inquiries a year to my infomercial development website. Every single person's an inventor. They've got a product, an idea, whatever. I can only help about 5 to 10% of them. So maybe, you know, 20 to 40 people out of that total number are ever going to be in a position where their product, their particular psyche, personality, resources, experience, lack of being delusional, lack of having realistic expectations and being willing to work, put in the time and energy that it takes.
On top of having a real viable product.
And a viable product.
Yeah.
So you can see that if you start applying all those filters, that number gets pretty small. But what Adrian just said is really right. What Leslie and I do is we help people through the minefield of actually negotiating the license agreement, because the analogy of trying to perform surgery on yourself is a good one too, because you know we've got decades of experience of doing this at very high levels, and we've seen pretty much every single thing that you can imagine it can happen within a license deal. And so our whole goal is to protect you and to, you know, not have you in your enthusiasm go in and make huge project killing mistakes. You know, what I always tell people is, if you consider your invention to be your retirement plan, would you entrust yourself with your resume with your retirement plan? Would you do that? You know, look at your resume. Are you qualified to manage the money that you're going to retire on? No, you want experts doing that.
Can we all afford
Probably
it?
one or two quick questions,
Yes.
and we'll wrap it up. So, Lisa? Sorry, let me go in from.
So I have some other product ideas, you know, small additions to other existing products. And so if I was going to go shop that out to prospective buyers in that category, what would you say is a good sort of target to go after as far as amount of companies? And once you get engaged, what's a good amount to stay with them? You know what I mean? Like, you contact before you start really getting into it with them, you know, 10? Or
Well,
do you, you know, 3? Or, you know?
Well, you have to look at your market, your applicability, right? So if there happen to be 10 that are, you know, and that 10 happen to also be the top 10, there's no reason not to go after them. There's no reason not to talk to more than one person at a time until you have that deal,
Right.
right? Until you understand what that deal is going to look like. Because if you're spending however amount of time, 6 months, 6 years, talking to one company, you've lost all that time and opportunity to go talk to somebody else. Now, again, going back to my dating analogy, if you meet someone and you're super serious and you want to be committed to only developing that relationship because you think you've got something, then great. Certainly invest the time and effort into doing that. But if it's kind of shady or shaky or you're not really sure, you know, spread it around. Keep your options open.
I like that. But here's one thing also to think about, because you're going to run into this. They will ask you for an exclusive negotiating agreement. So they'll say,
True.
we would like you to negotiate exclusively with us. My policy on that is, I don't enter into an exclusive negotiating period without a term sheet.
And you gotta be a little bit further along in that
yeah.
meeting. You're not gonna do that out of the gate. You're
No,
probably
no,
gonna
no.
do that after
So that's
5, 10
so
days.
so you're going to be negotiating with 5 different companies, and you're going to be moving, and it's going to be evolving and going down the right path, and the right things are being said, and you know, people are expressing a higher level of interest. Some people are going to go, yeah, we really like this product and we think it fits perfectly in our product line, and others are going to go, yeah, maybe we can think about it 6 months from now or a year from now. So little by little, people are going to fall by the wayside. You're going to come down to having companies that are going to say, we won't even talk about moving forward with the deal unless we get exclusive negotiating rights. And what you need to say is, well, I can't do that unless I have partners, I have investors. Can't do that unless I have a term sheet. So that, you know, and then what you're forcing them.
Would you go let the other ones know, though?
What's that?
Would you go let the other ones know?
No, no, because you don't have a deal until you have a signed license agreement.
It's the same with your investors.
Get a term sheet from them and then compare the two.
Right,
You know?
so that, it seems like you could get into this like really
And then you have a beauty
overwhelming
contest.
kind of
Right.
Well, don't do it at a trade show. You're doing it on the phone. You know, you're not going to be going from booth to booth. You know.
One more question.
Lisa.
Topic is dating a licensing agent. So if you have an international opportunity and you see great business prospects in a particular country, and let's say you see half a dozen product categories that you want designs to go into in my case, but the licensing agents who are interested in your brand, they'll say, well, we have expertise in this category, but not these 4, or these 2 categories, but not those 3. Do you follow the you got to start somewhere rule and do maybe a shorter term deal with a couple of different agents in one country just to kind of get it rolling, or do you hold back until you find that agent who can really give you the breadth that you need in representation?
I think it kind of goes to the same analogy that we used in his example. You know, because because when it comes down to it, again, licensing has many opportunities. You know, it's an octopus, has lots of different legs. You know, you certainly want to go with a licensing agent or a partner in any situation that's going to give you kind of the best deal. You know, if you're looking for a 10, you want to go for the 10. But, you know, if you look at all of the factors and all things considered, you can get 8 out of 10, you know, then go with that. But if everybody's a 2 or a 3, then maybe that's not the right strategy or approach anyway, and then maybe a holdout is possible.
That's a great way to quantify it. If you get that perfect fit, you go with the deal. If it's not such a perfect fit, then you wait and you keep looking.
It's been interesting to me that a lot of agents I've talked to, they really only have product category expertise in certain areas, but not.
That's true.
You can do 3-month deals. You can do trial. You know, do a 90-day trial. Although it's hard to get traction in 90 days.
Yeah.
But you know, you can certainly do that. And then if they're responsive and they're working hard and they seem to be getting results, you can extend it. You know, it's the beauty of in your situation is you've got traction, you've got a brand, you've got recognition. So you're really in a good driver's seat position with an agent. So you can kind of design your deal.
And a short-term agreement will let you try it out.
Yeah.
And it depends, you know, what stage of the battle you're in. Remember, Patton said a good plan today beats a perfect plan tomorrow.
Yeah.
So